Good evening, and welcome to Counterculture with Danielle D'Souza Gill. The culture's gone crazy, media's gone mad, and reason has become repugnant. Here, we focus on facts and how to fight back. Tonight, we'll be talking about Biden's big failure, how he pulled us out of Afghanistan. Is he the next Jimmy Carter, or worse? We've been training the Afghan army for 20 years. Why is it that when we pull out, the army runs away? What about Taliban rage? That may be worth looking at since it's going on right before our eyes. We'll get to all of this in tonight's episode. Let's dive in. We've all seen the sheer turmoil in Afghanistan, perhaps the largest Biden disaster of many in his short time in office so far. We've seen people crammed into planes, even hanging on for dear life to the outside of a plane as a plane takes off to safety. We've seen heart-wrenching video and imagery of torture and destruction. Even though the left-wing media is covering up for Biden largely, not even addressing the rape and murder of Afghan allies, we've seen criticism of Biden from even the likes of Jake Tapper and others. It's just too hard for them to ignore. That's how bad it is. The left argues that both Trump and Biden plan to withdraw our troops from Afghanistan, and that's true. But as Jake Tapper said, quote, "This is not just about the overall idea of leaving Afghanistan. This is about leaving hastily and ineptly. How did President Biden get this so wrong?" he asks. Of course, there was a lot of flip-flopping and sidestepping as the answer. Tapper pressed Secretary of State Antony Blinken further, saying, quote, "You keep changing the subject to whether we should be there forever. I'm talking about whether or not this exit was done properly, taking out all of the service members before those Americans and those Afghan translators could get out. Biden has to send back 5,000 troops to save these people, but it's unclear how many Americans are exactly left there. First it was 5,000, then it was between 5 and 10,000, then it was 11,000, now it's said to be upward of 15,000. While Biden continues to defend his actions, desperately digging in his heels, what he doesn't understand is that this conversation is not about withdrawal, but that it is of the utmost importance how you withdraw. After 20 years of the US in Afghanistan, to withdraw in such an irresponsible way, removing our military before evacuating Americans, is reprehensible. If those stranded could say something, what would they say? The Americans left behind. I think they would say, "Get me out of here, and fast. Biden, you're missing in action." How long will it take for you to step up and save these people from the Taliban? Not only were Americans left behind, but also our Afghan allies, our translators, those that stuck their necks out for us, they're now being shot, killed. Do you think the Taliban will be friendly to those people? Now let's talk about the big issue the left claims to care so much about: women. Nancy Pelosi has nicely asked the Taliban to give women a seat at the table. Her head is so far in the clouds, meanwhile Afghan women aren't leaving their homes, and many are in hiding, in fear for their lives. As The Guardian recently reported, quote, "There are no women in the streets." I don't blame them. Does Nancy Pelosi really expect her kind words to sink in with the Taliban? Does she really expect that to do anything for the women and girls there in hiding? Long term, we're in trouble. Aside from lives lost and lives in danger, think of all the advanced American equipment left behind, now in the hands of the Taliban. We gave it to them. Could the Biden administration be any more inept? Before 9/11, the Taliban used to have old weapons. Now they have brand new stuff. They have military vehicles, our military vehicles. Before, they were 11th century primitive, and terrorists used to have to use our own planes against us. Now they have advanced equipment that's their own. How will they put this to use? Outside of terrorizing our allies, they'll terrorize their own people, any who dissent. And to put the cherry on top of all of this, who do you think paid for this 20-year war that we lost? Us, the taxpayer. We paid for all of this. And will we hold our leaders accountable? I sure hope so. Don't forget that this did not have to end this way. How else could we have pulled out of Afghanistan? What should we have done? Let's explore that. We should have made it known, hey, we are getting out of here. However, we want to leave you, Taliban, with 2 points. 1, we're going to identify all the people we want to get out of here and get them out in an orderly fashion. If you try to stop us, we'll be bombarding you. We have the power. We've been occupying the place, after all. We had 20 years to get people out. So that's step 1. Get out the Americans, NGOs, our allies, and so on. Step 2, the bad news for you, Taliban, is once you've occupied Kabul, we know where to find you, since you're not in the mountains anymore. So if you upset us, we'll blow you to smithereens. You can't have a country without running it through the buildings, all of which we know. And we can do this from far away, and there's nothing you can do about it. We could have set up the terms for this. Trump would not have withdrawn our soldiers without first evacuating Americans. Our current president, but not just that, our intelligence, our universities, our political class, our military cannot operate foreign policy at the basic level. Even the Taliban strategy is better than ours. Even India made a lot of sense in that they are prioritizing allowing in Afghans who are Hindu or Sikh. They don't just open the floodgates. Let's quickly look back at our time in Afghanistan and discuss the war itself. Where did all of this go wrong? The background behind all of this is this. Why are the Taliban dangerous? Short answer, the Taliban supported the 9/11 hijackers. These terrorists needed a government that would give them safe harbor, so they found the Taliban, who were running Afghanistan. They planned there and trained there. This is why the US went to Afghanistan out of 9/11 and drove the Taliban into the mountains where they've been running a guerrilla war. However, there was no clear mission as to why we were there beyond that. We didn't go there to nation build, we didn't go to provide humanitarian aid, we didn't go there to be there long term. What should our short-term mission have been beyond that, if anything? Stabilize the government and their own military so it can stand on their own. However, we were purely acting as a crutch, and the government didn't stand a chance against the Taliban. That was obvious when their former president fled the country in a plane with cash. The Afghan military also unable to survive without us. The Afghan army was only able to operate integrated into our army. They were never trained to fight on their own. They were trained to call American military personnel when they needed help. They were good at that, but that's not a long-term solution. And the bigger ramifications of us being there long-term are that when you don't have a clear goal, this all becomes a racket. Other people start taking advantage, billions of dollars are poured into this, defense contractors are supplying supplies, and the people who are paying for it are the American people. Our 20-year presence in Afghanistan could have resulted in a plan. It could have resulted in anything but this. When Biden attempted to defend the indefensible, he compared this war to the Vietnam War, as if to say, that was a disaster, so was this, that's life, people, suck it up. Biden clearly didn't learn from our experience in Vietnam. Far from it, in his recent speech, he spoke about how it's a great thing that he's treating this war like the Vietnam War. The purpose of looking back at history and looking back at a war like the Vietnam War is to learn from our experience, not repeat it. Trump had a conditions-based deal with the Taliban for withdrawal. Biden's was not conditions-based. The long-term ramifications of this are not yet known, but what we do know is America is more unsafe today than we were just a few weeks ago. Biden says the buck stops with me, but he's been blaming others nonstop. Will he ever realize what a mess he made? Probably not. Many have been asking, is he the new Carter? President Carter was so careless as to withdraw US support from the Shah of Iran, forcing the Shah to abdicate and give us Khomeini, a far worse enemy. That was terrible, but Carter had somewhat good intentions, I think, even though he was incapable. But Biden? No. He did not have good intentions. The Democrats today have ill intentions. Nancy Pelosi, she doesn't care if women and children are raped. The Democrats don't care if our Afghan allies are killed. Biden-Harris and their team of radicals don't care if our efforts in Afghanistan are a total failure. Biden was the vice president under Obama. He wanted American influence diminished, our legacy tarnished, and the country embarrassed. Well, that's exactly what his henchman, Joe Biden, is carrying out. What is the most embarrassing for the left, though, is this. While the Taliban is seizing Kabul, taking over the nation, sending women into hiding, meanwhile, the military over here is ensconced in a debate over transgender bathrooms and other distractions to try to get our soldiers to learn about white rage. What about the rage of the Taliban? That's gotta be scary for those living under their domain.